What's up, you guys? Thank you for clicking on this video. So as you can tell by the title, we have a crazy piece of discussion to cover today. Lorenzo again, he's at it, yapping away as usual. So he did an interview, I think like a few days ago or a week ago, with the Triple Takeover podcast. I'm going to link the video down in the description of this one for those of you who want to watch the full sit down. But towards the end of the interview, it gets very interesting. So Sixo asks him a question on the continuity of the new movies and stuff like that. And Lorenzo gives a pretty... how do I want to say this? I mean, there's really no other way to put it. I don't know how Sixo and Triple Takeover feel about what he said in this interview, but I'm going to say my thoughts on it. I think his answer was ridiculous and flat out dumb. So I'm going to play you guys the clip, and then I'll give you guys my thoughts on what Lorenzo said here.
But do you see it as a continuity, you know, kind of a continuation of Rise of the Beasts and Bumblebee?
There's a really healthy fight going on about that.
Right,
which
okay.
I don't know the answer about who's going to win.
Okay, interesting.
Up
for debate.
I favor a reboot.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that's what's going to happen, because there's a lot of good reasons to make it a sequel. So,
yeah.
I mean, Rise of the Beast was a very entertaining movie and really succeeded. The audience liked it very much. And
because that was a question with that as well, was that a reboot? And there was almost a similar conversation around Bumblebee.
Well, I've never understood how people saw Bumblebee as a reboot, because it was so clearly Optimus comes at the end of that movie as though it's the beginning of the Bay world.
Yeah.
And Bumblebee turns into the car from the old film, from the 2007 film.
Exactly. Yeah. So I never understood how they saw it, but we did not see it as a reboot. We saw it as a prequel.
Yeah.
And so I think at some time, this isn't a reboot, this movie. This is a new part of the story.
A new story,
That's why I would say I favor a new part of the story as the next movie. It's probably a better way to say it than a reboot.
Okay. So sort of like it's up to interpretation, I guess.
It could be. I mean, again, we're not there yet to declare which direction it's going in.
So Sixo asks about the continuity of the upcoming G.I. Joe and Transformers film. And Lorenzo says he favors a reboot or a new part of the story, or just a new piece of storytelling. I'm not, I don't know how you could work around doing that. Like, you can't get around the fact that Rise of the Beast is the movie that set up the G.I. Joe collab movie, which is obviously the next live-action film after this. So I don't understand how you could call the upcoming G.I. Joe crossover a reboot when it's very much so a sequel that was set up by the end of Rise of the Beast. This very well may be the reason why Stephen Caple Jr. left the G.I. Joe movie recently, because of dumb discussions like this, like what Lorenzo just said, him wanting the movie to be a reboot, which makes absolutely no freaking sense. I mean, you could make it a reboot if you really want to, and just, start out fresh with a G.I. Joe and Transformers movie, but then it would just be even more confusing doing it this way. How are you going to explain how it's a reboot and not a sequel to what was teased at the end of Rise of the Beast? How are you going to market the movie going around that? It just makes no sense to me to make that decision. For me, it really does have to be a sequel to Rise of the Beast for it to make sense. Like, you just don't go into a Transformers rebooted movie franchise with a G.I. Joe crossover. I mean, you could, that's kind of what the Skybound comics did, but is that really what we want and need from a Transformers live-action movie right now, especially if it's going to be a reboot? Oh, man. I don't know, guys. I mean, he also says there's a healthy discussion going on at Paramount, and I'd assume Hasbro as well, on the continuity going forward right now, on whether to make it a reboot or not, which that alone is mind-boggling to me. Like, I just don't understand how it's even some sort of a discussion right now to make the upcoming movie a reboot or have it in the same universe as Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast. And you also see in the clip that he goes into the continuity of the Bumblebee movie film. And he says he never saw it as a reboot, and he doesn't understand how other people saw it as a reboot. What? There's so many continuity errors if you line it up with the Bayverse movies that it very much is a reboot. How do the Autobots look the way they do on Cybertron? Why is Bumblebee on Earth in 1987? Why is Optimus and the rest of the Autobots on Earth in 1987? Why are the Decepticons looking the way they do on Cybertron? Why doesn't Sector 7 know about the Transformers when in the 2007 movie it was founded in the 30s based off of the Allspark in Megatron's body, but then they act dumbfounded when they meet up with Dropkick and Shatter and when they see Bumblebee? Make it make sense, Lorenzo. If that is the case, if Bumblebee truly is a prequel, why do all these continuity errors exist within the movie that clearly point to it being a reboot? There were even reshoots for the movie after The Last Night bombed at the box office because of how scared Paramount and Hasbro were to attach the upcoming Bumblebee movie to the Bayverse, and those reshoots were basically to make it more of a reboot, or if you want to put it in Lorenzo's silly words here, up for interpretation on what continuity it could be in. So I just don't understand why he's going with the whole prequel route still over 6 years later. I don't get what point he's trying to prove. I don't know if he's got like an ego with the Bayverse movies and he doesn't want to let that go. That must be what it is. Because it just doesn't make sense to me how he's still touting that the Bumblebee movie is a prequel, even after we got Rise of the Beast, even after Hasbro said Bumblebee movie was the start of a new Transformers movie universe. That was back in like 2019, I think. The list could go on, just confirmation on it being a reboot. I even think Stephen Caple Jr. last year during the press release for Rise of the Beast, one of his interviews last year, he even said it's a reboot and not set in the continuity of the Bayverse movies. So it really feels like Lorenzo is one of the only people to Transformers right now that is still riding on the coats of Bayverse and hoping that it's just going to stick with the crowd. And it is not sticking with the crowd, Lorenzo. Nobody wants this, and nobody cares about Bayverse continuity anymore. We've felt like we're in a new universe, and we are in a new universe for over 6 years now with the Bumblebee movie. And people just prefer it that way moving forward. Why can't he just understand that and just, give the Transformers fans what they want? Because obviously, that's something that needs to happen with these Transformers movies. Because something just isn't right with the franchise right now, for the movies at least. Transformers 1 is bombing. Rise of the Beast didn't do the greatest last year. And the Bumblebee movie was only successful because of how low the budget was for it. I think it was like $50 million. So with all that considered, why are we still having this conversation about the continuity, and why is Lorenzo still just talking out of his you-know-what and saying things that make absolutely no sense and saying things that just really is not healthy for the movie franchise going forward? The Bumblebee movie being a prequel to the Bayverse? What? And the G.I. Joe movie wanting to be a reboot or a new story setting, whatever the hell he said, that just sounded ridiculous to me. I don't know how to go around this, guys. I just don't know what to think. When I first heard this section here, this minute of dialogue from Lorenzo in this interview, I was eating a bowl of ice cream, right? And I almost spit that thing out. Like, I was in shock. I didn't know what to think about what Lorenzo was saying here, because it just sounded so insane to me. But I guess I shouldn't have even been in shock to begin with, knowing who this guy is and the things he said over the last close to 20 years now, since being the producer of all these movies. Because if you go through all his interviews and all the stupid stuff he said over the last 17, 18 years, you'll realize pretty quickly that he is probably one of the main issues with the Transformers movies, and especially the Bay movies. Because I saw a Slag podcast did a video on this like a week or 2 weeks ago, on how Michael Bay really isn't the main issue with the Transformers movies. He was just there to do his job, and for Michael Bay standards and for what Michael Bay is known for in his own directing style, we all got to be honest, he did a pretty damn good job. The action for the most part was perfect, except if you want to, critique The Last Night and parts of Age of Extinction. And just the camera angles, the lighting, everything was basically on point with pretty much all the Bay movies. So you really can't blame him for stuff like that until you get into the corporate ladder that's above him, telling him what to do with certain things. And I'm pretty sure Lorenzo is one of those. I'm not sure what kind of producer he is on these movies, but I'd assume he's probably the main head honcho at this point. So he's definitely one of, if not the main problem, being around on these movies still to this day. And the fact that he was a producer on Madam Web that came out earlier this year just tells it all right there. I mean, the guy is just dumb. He doesn't know how to handle anything from comic books or cartoons or superhero characters. He's the same one that produced the terrible G.I. Joe movies, and yes, that includes the stupid Snake Eyes movie from a couple years back that totally bombed and that nobody remembers or even cared about when the movie came out to begin with. So I just feel like it's a no-brainer at this point to let Lorenzo go and Paramount just move on and put somebody in charge that's actually competent and knows how to handle Transformers in G.I. Joe. Because, in my opinion at least, it seems pretty obvious that after all these movies, the 3 G.I. Joe movies and the 8 Transformers movies, he doesn't know what he's talking about and he doesn't know what he's doing with these characters. I guarantee you Transformers 1, it was not a good movie because of Lorenzo. It was because of the director and the writers and whoever else knew that was involved with this particular movie and Rise of the Beast and Bumblebee. It definitely had nothing to do with Lorenzo. So I don't know, guys. I just hope we could stop having this conversation and Lorenzo can just stop saying these stupid things. Now, it's easy to say down in the comments, just stop covering it, just stop letting it affect you, but you really can't at this point, knowing that he's probably the main head honcho producer on every single Transformers movie. I don't get how you can't talk about this and just ignore it, because he's one of the main guys behind these movies, and he's saying stuff like this that just makes absolutely no sense and that is flat out dumb. But yeah, guys, I don't want to keep going around in a circle. It'll just make my blood pressure rise even more, and I'll probably have a heart attack if I go on for any other second. So I'll leave it at that. Let me know down in the comments below, how do you guys feel about what Lorenzo said here? Do you agree with it? Do you not? All my social medias are linked down below, including my email if you guys want to hit me up about business inquiries, or if you want to message me about whatever, or if you want to commission a diorama from me, because I make dioramas for people for their stop motions, photography, or irregular display shelves in your homes. You could either hit me up on any of my social media accounts or just email me and we could work out a deal. But yeah, guys, thank you for watching this video. Catch y'all in the next one. Bye!